Welcome to Pause for the Truth, where you can sit back, relax, and hear an honest dialogue about health, wealth, legal, and social issues. The hosts are Dr. Rogers Kane, family practice physician, and Jocelyn Turner, health education consultant, with co hosts from the Northeast Florida Medical Society and its foundation. Stay tuned for the truth about matters affecting you and your family. We're here to tell you what's really going on and why. Good evening and welcome to Pause for the Truth. I am Jocelyn Turner. OMG, it's a beautiful day in Northeast Florida. I mean, this is pretty much my perfect type of weather season. What do you think about that, Dr. Kane? How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing fine. I feel like Mr. Rogers, a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
Crickets. Okay, I can't say anything, but but okay, Dr. Kane, thank you. So tonight we're going to have a very interesting topic, and thank you to our guests for being. Oh, excuse me. I mean our behind the scenes guy and our guests who have joined us tonight as we talk about scams and fraud. And by the way, to our regular listeners, viewers, listeners, whichever format you choose to do, thank you as always for tuning in. You know what, as we prepare to do the podcast, Dr. Kane and Tyrone and I, we kick around different topics as well as some of the members of the Northeast Florida Medical Society. And we talk about what topics are relevant. With the physicians, obviously, is based on what they're hearing from their patients. With Tyrone, as tonight was selected by him, there are things that he's been hearing by his customers through his Call Tyrone computer technology business. And I know I probably butchered the name of your business, Tyrone, but anywho, you mentioned that some things have been happening with some of your clients. So thank you for coming from behind the scenes and joining us in the conversation. How are you doing this evening, Tyrone?
I am doing awesome. Thank you for asking. I agree with you, Miss Jocelyn. This is the time of the year to be in Northeast Florida. I tell you, you can't beat this with a stick and a bunny.
I hear you. You know what, Tyrone? Every now and then it comes out, and I really don't like to say that this is not against anybody else, but your look countryness comes out every now and then based on some of the things that you say. Between a stick, is that something you learned in the mountains, hills, or streets of East St. Louis?
Well,
However
I
you
can
say
tell you, the further you go back in all of our history, you're going to find us in the South. And my lineage takes me back to Selma, Alabama.
All right now, Selma, Alabama. Well, let me not further delay in bringing in our guest for the evening. As you can see that, you know, if anybody that knows this guy knows that he's always busy. I mean, I admire him. I don't see how he does all the things. He's involved in a lot of different organizations here in Northeast Florida and is a real supporter of our podcast. How are you doing this evening, Octavius?
I'm doing fantastic. Fantastic. Feeling
Thank
good.
you. Thank you, as always, for joining us. We really appreciate it. And we are supposed to have someone else to join us. So hopefully she will be joining us this evening. But
Okay.
again, tonight's topic is an important one. If you live in Florida or if you have a parent who is aging, maybe they unfortunately who have been a victim of scam. I tell you what, all day long, I get tired of, I call them scammers and thieves who are constantly calling my phone trying to get me to sell my home, buy something, or whatever the case may be.
Right.
But Octavius, I just want to ask you, what, in your experience, what are you finding as the most common types of incidences of scam or fraud?
Well, I'm going to slow down just a little bit, just so the public can know a little bit more about me. And that in my professional life, you did mention what I do, like as far as volunteering and whatnot. But in my professional life, I am in charge of a division in special prosecution at the state attorney's office over elder abuse. And that elder abuse can be violence toward the elderly person,
Mm,
but it definitely includes exploitation and a lot of those. And also, if it's a targeting of the elderly person. If they took advantage of an elderly person just based on their age and thought they can get away with something, that comes to my desk. So when you reached out to me, I was like, oh yeah, I deal with it every day. You have people who are professional scammers, and they cast a very wide net in order to get a few fish, and they can use those few fish to maximize their gain. So what's the most common? I got a few written down, but it's not just. I mean, you said the most popular one. I think the most popular one when it comes to like elder abuse primarily would be the romance scams. I get a lot of victims who are elderly, they're dating. That the immediate red flag is the person they're dating is 25 or 30. That's 74. And a lot of times it's just about grooming. So you get those scams with the romance scams, but you also get a lot of scams with what I do call grooming of a person. There's a gray area between, as we're getting older, we might be losing some of our cognitive abilities, right? And you have parents who have aged, you've seen that.
Right.
There's a gray area between when they have some good days and bad days, and a person comes in and gets close to them, become their friend, become their confidant, comes visit them all the time, and then that person isn't really without their wherewithal. They have their senses for the time being, but they're slowly losing it a little bit, and those people are the most vulnerable. So I would say families and friends and church members got to stay close to the older adults, because they can actually give away their fortunes, give away their savings to help somebody who just makes them feel good. So so grooming someone, whether it's romance or whether it's just getting to be their friend, those are the biggest things going on in Jacksonville right now.
So I was looking up, and I'm going to get back to something, but I was looking it up. We talk about scams and fraud, and it says fraud involves stolen information such as credit card or bank account numbers,
right,
while scams trick victims into providing personal information through tactics such as phishing emails, fake social media accounts, and too good to be true offers. But I want to get back to something real quick, because what about those young family members that take advantage of the elderly family member? Do you ever see that?
Every day, every single day. Now, so there's two types. Basically, you got the family members who use their grandparents. I'll be transparent, Jocelyn. My niece, who I am currently evicting out of my mom's house, we have a pending case with her because she took my mom's personal identification information, took her name and social security number, got credit cards, and doing whatever she wants to do. Well, she got to go to jail. So even though she's family, she's got to pay for that. And I say that every day. But I say there's two categories. You have those persons who are close to the victims. And then when you put your aged adult, your older relative in a nursing home, or when you invite a home health aide to come into the home and take care of them, I have seen that over and over again. I've seen people steal from the elderly person with a camera in the living room. The camera was clear as day, but she stole from her. Some very unique family heirlooms. And then I see people inside of facilities when they see that person isn't getting a lot of visitors, don't have a lot of people who are coming to see about them and care about them, they take their credit cards, they take their different information, and then they use that for their gain. So we only catch them when a relative is somewhere checking out their account. Like, wait a minute, where's this trip to Barbados coming from on their credit card? Then they notify authorities. Then we start tracking it down. But a lot of elderly people just get placed in homes, and their family just wait for them to die. Honestly, and that's kind of a sad thing. But we see it all the time.
Well, you guys have brought up a subject now, and I think that we probably need to do another show on, because you just divided kind of into two categories, mostly about these scammers and so on, but as being elderly abusers. But I want to talk about, and I think we should do it on a different show. Let's talk about elderly abuse, period, especially with the way that I see it happening in my practice, and other physicians also see it. But I know tonight we really want to focus on the scammers and, so even though elderly abuse, part of elderly abuse is scamming, and we're going to cover that this evening, I also want to cover the other aspect of elderly abuse.
So tonight we're doing what? Just focus on scams.
Let's mostly focus on on the scam because
We're
we're gonna
gonna
bring
scams.
you gonna be you coming back for part 2.
Yeah. Y'all said that last time. Y'all said I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I don't even believe it. I said
Yeah,
it
you
last time, but scammers. I got one today. I saved. I didn't delete it. I saved it just for y'all. Hold up a second now. I saved it for you tonight. Let me look back at it. Let's see. Came in this morning, early in the morning. It says the USPS package has arrived at the warehouse and cannot be delivered due to incomplete address information. Please confirm your address in the link within 12 hours. Please reply why, then exit the SMS, open the SMS activation link again, and copy it into your browser. Right. Yeah. No. I don't have a package coming through the postal service, but then also it's a scam. People are trying to get your information somehow or another. Whether it's you throwing away things in the garbage, they get it that way. What used to be popular in Jacksonville, I haven't seen it in a while now, would be that somebody would, you be at the laundromat or be at the store, they would steal your wallet, and then they would throw the wallet down, right? And you think, well, I got my wallet back. But they would steal some type of information out of it, your ID.
Okay.
And then they would go rent a whole house full of furniture based on your ID. So,
wow.
So you see a lot of different people just trying to, not trying to work for their money. They're trying to be smart about it, trying to get you out. They're trying to separate you from your money.
So what you wouldn't do if you saw that wallet, what you're saying is, you say, oh, I got my wallet back. So you don't go and close off your credit cards or stop, check your credit report. You don't do all that because you figure you got all your belongings back.
That's correct. And I'm not trying to monopolize all the time, but I just came back from an Urban League conference, Jocelyn, in Tampa. And there's new skimmers that are out now that are even more or even stronger than they were before. And y'all know what I mean by skimmers, right?
No, explain it to the audience.
Okay, so usually you give your credit card to a server at a restaurant. They leave your presence and go away. They have a skimming machine that can snatch all your credit card information off of it, and you still get your credit card back. But they have all the information. They'll take all that information and put it on a brand new credit card with their name on it. All right, or with the ID of somebody they stole. And now when they go to Walmart, right, and they swipe the card, it'll be charging your credit card, even though the credit card has their name on it. So now some stores are better about it than others. Well, they'll look at the receipt and see that it says Octavius Holiday on the receipt and it says Octavius Holiday on the credit card. But a lot of times during Christmas when it's really busy, that's a great time for them to take advantage of people. And so the skimmers that are out now is that they are being better about and quicker in putting in the gas pumps. They put in the gas pumps. We've had issues in Jacksonville with the meters, the parking meters.
Right.
Yep.
Right. So if you're using your credit card and parking meters, there's another opportunity for them to have a skimmer. And that's easy. 2:00 in the morning, who's out there checking the parking meters, right? They put the skimmer in. You put your credit card in and pull it out. They got your information.
So what can you do to help protect yourself from the skimmers?
Right.
Since we on this subject.
There's nothing you can do about it. Well, you can always park. Well, it's a couple things you can do. I'll take that back. If you're talking about the gas station type of situation, they normally don't do it on the interior gas pumps, right? So I want to say to the interior gas pumps and not the exterior ones. Pay on the inside if you got the time. Pay on the inside. Do the tap. If you have the credit cards that tap, do that one. And then if you are going to be scammed, use a credit card instead of a debit card, because that debit card money I don't think it's just going to be gone. But the credit card company, you have a better chance of them reimbursing you on that. But as far as the server, a lot of companies have now gone to putting the machine on the table for you to do it yourself, and that adds added security to you as well. But
so what about does pulling on the, if you're at the gas station? Mm-hmm. Sometimes I'll pull on the face of the gas pump, where the credit card go in, trying to pull on it to see if that pulls off or something. No, I don't know. It may not do a damn bit of good.
Don't do a damn bit of good.
It made me feel good at the time.
But I have on my credit cards, every time they get used, even when I'm using them, I get notified.
Right. Same here.
Right. So if you are savvy with your credit cards, then every time you use it, right, you should be notified by email or text that your card is being used, and it gives you an amount. Like as soon as I use it, boop, within seconds, right? So it's hard for me to be taken advantage of in that way. But a lot of people don't do that. So
Now, is that a feature that is only available when you use a credit card and not necessarily a debit card? The debit cards don't have the same notification as some of the credit cards.
I believe you're correct on that. In terms of debit cards, I pretty much go to my accounts every day. You know, I know people out here, again, trying to separate me from my finances, so I go to my accounts every day. Make sure we're on point.
One of the things that happened when we were up in North Carolina, my wife was furniture shopping.
Mm-hmm.
Long story short, this woman, you know, I wasn't with the wife at the time. Because, you know, furniture shopping, I'm going to sit on the furniture more so than shop on it.
Right.
Shop with it.
We all in Burlington?
Yeah. Burlington, Hickory Creek, up in that area, right? So anyway, this woman, I'm watching this woman follow my wife all around the store, and it looked like everywhere she goes, my wife goes, this woman trying to get pretty close to her within about 5-10 feet, just staying there.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, of course, my antennas were raised thinking like, does she have a skimmer? And sure enough, she did, because the first thing, I use American Express for everything. It just helps guards because they know.
So do I.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyway, I got a phone call from the lady. I went and did the wife did buy some furniture. And I got a phone call from American Express saying, did you just use your card in I don't know, Oakland, California somewhere? It was in California. It's like, no, I did not. She said, well, that's why we're notifying you, because we knew you couldn't get from North Carolina to Oakland that quick.
Right.
And so they notified me that had happened. Of course, we canceled the card and so on and so on. And I also saw one time, just real quick, where I'm pumping my gas, and I'm watching people going into the gas station, and this guy, one was a guy, another was a lady. As soon as people go to walk in the gas station, she walked right behind them, or he walked right behind them, and then they come right back out. And so I figured then that they were probably skimming, getting this credit card. And sure enough, one of the managers of the gas station came out and busted them and sent them on their way. But I don't know how many people got busted by that time.
What if you get an email and it says, you know what, Amazon has some great deals for Black Friday. You know, go ahead and click on this link and you can shop, right? And you might click on that link, right? You think it's from Amazon, right? And when you click on the link, now you have malware on your computer. Now your computer's shutting down and you're having all kinds of troubles, right? And then it says it has a link on there where, you know, if you have this problem, you can fix it by calling this company or whatever they're going to do. That's a perfect setup for a scam.
Yeah.
If they catch you at a vulnerable time, you're frustrated, you need to get your computer fixed, right?
Right.
Now it's going to take you $1,000, whatever the case may be. That came up even yesterday at the Urban League meeting down in Tampa.
Well, they tried me on that. I called Tyrone, as a matter of fact. Like, he's got that smile on his face because they tried me on it. I say, hey, here's something that happened. What is this? Mm-hmm. And he says, don't do it. Don't touch it. Don't do anything with it. And walk me through on how to get rid of it.
Right.
Yeah, you know, and it's amazing. Those situations that happen with just a little diligence can be ferreted out very easily. Right. Because if an email says that it's giving you an opportunity to buy at Amazon, then that email will come from Amazon.com, right? Not abcdf@gmail.com.
Right. And sometimes they look just like Amazon.
Right. There are things about an email that can be spoofed or changed. Right. The one item that cannot be is the from. Mm-hmm. Now, in front of the from, you can put a header that says Amazon. And then in the brackets, parentheses, it'll say the actual email that it comes from. Right. Just by advising individuals to look at that portion right there alone will prevent them. But I will tell you that it's very seldom done.
Right.
People I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just saying, this is all about slowing down. My mom calls me and talks about these things. These phone calls she get. Just slow down. It sounds too good to be true. It is.
It is.
Right. You make money quickly. Probably not. Right. just slow down. And that's a great segue into the grandparent scam where they call the grandparent and saying, little Mikey, your grandson Mikey is in jail, and he's gonna be here for about a week, but because the judge is gonna be out for a week, we need $3,000 or whatever. Or they call you and say, you know what, you didn't pay this bill or this property tax or whatever the case might be. We need you to pay $2,000, or we're gonna send somebody to your door to arrest you. And that puts you in a panic. But if you slow down, talk to your network a little bit, and then usually a person who's not in that panic situation is going to be like, no, don't do it. That's crazy, right?
Absolutely. That's one of the things. And one of the things that's always amazing to me in that instance that you just described, Octavia, is that the first thing they would say was, don't call your grandson to check on him. He doesn't have his phone.
Right.
Don't call his mom because she's here with us. Right. They give you, they set these parameters by which you need to check on the validity, and individuals fall for it every day.
Right. And it's a net. It's a large net. If I call 100 grandparents, I just need a couple of them to make my day. Right. Just need about 2 or 3 to make my day. Yeah. I was telling Tyrone before we came on about my sister going through a situation, and they use her love for her church, and that gets you. They get to something that you care about, and then you become more vulnerable because of that. My girlfriend might be online right here listening, but I'll use her as an example. Oops. She's an educator, and somebody sent an email to her pretending to be from her principal, saying that she needed to send a certain amount of money to help him out of a jam. Now she felt loyal to her principal and sent the money. Yeah.
It's amazing how they learn about you. They study your life, your habits. If you're just joining us, we're talking about scams and frauds. Mm-hmm. Call us or post a message and tell us about a situation, if you don't mind. If you ever have been a victim of a scam or fraud, if you have a question of our guests, dial in now, 888-669-1280. Again, 888-669-1280. Tyrone, is it about time, or should we wait a few more minutes before you give us the Black History moment?
Well, I am very proud to give you guys the Black History moment this year week, so let's not delay at all. If anyone has listened to this show any time and heard me come from behind the scenes, they know I am from East St. Louis, Illinois. And so our History Maker Minute today is going to be from another individual from East St. Louis. So I am ready when you are.
The hood.
Take it away, Tyrone, and Octavius will be just right back.
To pause for the Truth's History Makers Minute on November 7th, 2023. As we reflect on the past and present, it is important to recognize the people who have made significant contributions to America and the rest of the world. Today we present Abraham Bolden. Abraham was born on January 19, 1935, to Daniel and Ophelia Bolden in East St. Louis, Illinois. He attended Lincoln High School in East St. Louis, Illinois. Bolden graduated cum laude from Lincoln University with a Bachelor of Arts in Music Composition. Afterward, he became the first African-American detective with the Pinkerton National Detective Agency prior to becoming a highway patrolman with the Illinois State Police. In October 1960, Bolden became a member of the United States Secret Service. In June 1961, he was transferred from Chicago and given a temporary assignment on the White House detail guarding President John F. Kennedy. With the assignment, part of the Secret Service practice of rotating newer agents onto the detail, Bolden became the first African American to guard the president. He was also reported to have won 2 commendations for cracking counterfeiting rings. According to Jet magazine, in 1962 he ranked second in the nation in solving counterfeit and check forging cases. According to Bolden, he was assigned to the Secret Service's Presidential Protective Division after he met Kennedy on April 28, 1961, while working an event at McCormick Place in Chicago, and Kennedy there personally invited him to join the White House detail as the first African American assigned to protect the president. Bolden said that at one time Kennedy introduced him to others as the Jackie Robinson of the Secret Service, a comment Bolden found so touching he almost broke into tears. After Kennedy's assassination on November 22, 1963, Bolden's career imploded. He accused the Secret Service of misconduct regarding the Dallas, Texas tragedy and threatened to divulge information concerning the president's lack of proper security to the Warren Commission investigating the president's death. The commission never called Agent Bolden to testify. Instead, in May 1964, Bolden was fired from his post and then arrested by Secret Service agents. Bolden was convicted and imprisoned at the Springfield, Illinois Medical Center for Federal Prisoners, despite the admission by one of the main prosecution witnesses, counterfeiter Joseph Spagnoli, that he had been encouraged to lie during the trial. In January 1978, Bolden gave testimony on his experiences and his allegations concerning the Kennedy assassination to two investigators of the House Select Committee on Assassinations. The committee's final report, released in March 1979, stated that the Secret Service was deficient in the performance of its duties in Dallas. Bolden felt vindicated by this report. In 2008, Bolden wrote The Echo from Dealey Plaza, which detailed his charges. The book describes the racism in the Secret Service at the time and his difficulties with both colleagues and supervisors during his 6 years with the agency. He also discussed how he failed to recognize the consequences of challenging this powerful agency in the 1960s when whistleblowers were rare and often not deemed credible. Welcome to...
Wow.
Wow. Now that's some history. You know, Tyrone and Dr. Kane, Octavius, it's not many times that I'm speechless, but that one made me speechless. Wow.
Even though I'm not surprised,
Yes,
I think none of us are surprised. You know, he was an honest man, not just an honest black man. He was an honest man that saw what was going on. And of course, he was trying to be discredited, one, because he was an honest man, but two, because he was an honest black man. And,
Yeah.
you know, and so you see that, you know, and we see it a lot of times with even today when people reveal some of the ongoings that we see in our current political environment. They get marked as being crazy. They, you know, get, you know, if Mr. Holliday raised too much sand in the fraud division, and if there's anywhere in the police department that they are participant in it or lack of discipline in terms of doing something about it, they'll go after him the same way.
Now, one of the things that's worth noting also in April 26, 2022, he did receive a presidential pardon from Joe Biden.
Okay.
Wow.
I got a text message from Detective Cobb. She said she's on. I think she's waiting to be let in or something like that.
No,
Tyrone, she might be and went to a previous program. Can we get her number? And
yeah, she's not in our queue. I got her. I'm waiting for her. So as soon as she gets in here,
Tell her to
maybe
go
that's
out
good.
and come back in.
yeah, tell her to go out, come back in up under that, or give her Tyrone's. If we
I
can-
gave her, tell her to check her message. I gave her Tyrone's number. Tyrone, I want to ask you a quick question while Octavius is checking.
okay.
So, what, you know, as was mentioned earlier, a lot of things or scams or fraudulent activities come in through computer, through messaging. You know, is there anything that we can do, or what should we look out for before we open up something that could potentially hijack our computer system? I mean, I know you look for .com, .edu, or whatever, but what else should we pay attention to?
Well, 75%, or what is proposed by the Computer Bureau, is that about 75% of scams and frauds that are perpetrated on electronic devices can be mitigated just by doing what Octavius is saying, slowing down and reading the information that's on screen.
Right.
All right. And so there's been a thing that you'll hear people say, well, once I looked at it, words were misspelled, or the grammar didn't quite make sense. You have to understand that is because a lot of this is generated in foreign countries. They're using apps and they're using technology to simulate the English language.
Right.
Well, English currently is one of the most difficult languages because we have words that mean multiple things based on where they're placed in a sentence. So it's difficult to speak in German or Russian and have it translated and make sense in English.
Right.
So one of the first and foremost things is slow down, read the information, and simply verify.
Right.
If it says Miss Jocelyn, who's your great friend, is just sending you this email, then you should know Miss Jocelyn's email. And it should say Jocelyn at whatever, and not ABCDFG. If you look at some of these addresses that they come from, they're obvious because they just use a series of letters and numbers to facilitate a user.
Bottom line, slow your roll.
Right. We get trained with the state of Jacksonville. So our system, even though the state attorney's office, we're all on a COJ network. And to stay on there, to have your access, we get trained, I think it's annually, but go through a test, and it always talks about that. Like you just can't jump in and trust an email. Right? It's typically about emails, but you just can't trust it. And don't click on links that you got some suspicion about. So but there you go. Right.
Oh, there's Detective Cobb.
Look at that.
Thank you so much, Detective, for joining us. How are you this evening?
Good. How are you?
Good. Multitasking, I see. I mean, that's the story of our lives, right?
Yes, it is. Yes.
So I want to ask a question. When we talk about fraud and
Oh, wait, what's going on?
Ms. Johnson, before you do that, I want to put this up because it answers your last question. And what this here shows is the reasons why scams and frauds work. And it's simple. In most cases, it's greed, emotional commitment, and then trust. So many people want something for free. They want their free lunch. So when you tell them, hey, there's a package when we tried to deliver a package to your house and you weren't there, but we're going to deliver it, give us this information, you didn't have a package delivered there. You're not waiting for a package. Right. Greed did that. Okay. And then people are abused and misunderstood or lack emotional attachment. That goes back to what Octavia was talking about with regards to the elderly. There are people who are living day to day and their lives are not full of joy and excitement. They're just making it. And when someone calls or someone reaches out to them with that emotional attachment that they're missing, what they're willing to do to maintain that is unbelievable.
No.
Then the third one is that we're all willing to give almost anything for someone we trust. I remember going to sales school, and for the month I was there, they taught us that there are three things you need to know about selling. People buy from people they like. People buy things they don't want from people they like. People buy things they don't need from people they like. Be liked.
So just become a likable person and you can sell me a red car even though I came there for a black one, huh?
Yes, ma'am.
False.
So I want to pose a question to Detective Cobb. Detective Cobb, we literally just met. So again, welcome. In your line of work, what do you see as what do you come across in terms of scams or frauds? And what's the most prevalent in your line of work, I should say?
I don't know that we have one specific thing. Octavius knows because he works some of our cases that we have in financial crimes at JSO. I would say some of the biggest concerns that I have that some of you guys have touched on, because I've been watching you guys, not realizing I couldn't get in because I was in the wrong one. Elderly exploitation and elderly romance scams are really one of the biggest things that we see. The other type that we keep seeing quite frequently right now is identity theft is still out there, and also skimming is still going on. as you guys very well know. And even the Microsoft scam that's even going on out there, that's kind of big right now with regards to people clicking on things, as Tyrone had mentioned, that they shouldn't be clicking on in reference to their emails, text messages, things like that. So
Yeah, I was a victim of theft once. I used my debit card at Publix, and then all of a sudden, my mortgage company called and said that your mortgage, we haven't received your mortgage payment. And I'm looking, Octavius, I'm checking my bank account prior to that, and I noticed the amount of money that was out. I was like, oh, okay, my mortgage went through, my car note went through, right? Well, little did I know it went through all right, went through someone else's hands and not to my bank mortgage company, right? Someone literally, I don't know how they did it, but the Publix in Winter Haven or wherever else, the cards was being used somewhere else. And I'm like, how in the world could that happen when I'm right here in Jacksonville and not left town? That was just the most, and again, I guess this happened about 15 years ago. So I don't know if that's when the skimming and whatever started, but I felt so victimized, right? That here I am with my card in my possession, had not lost it, that someone would take my money. And just so happened I went through an identity theft training at work, and they told me to file a police report, and I did. And what the guy said, I don't know if it's true, detective, or Octavius, that if I file a police report, then that took me out as being the criminal, right? And the bank gave me my money back, and they won't come back and ask me for the money after they do their investigation. Is that true? Or could the bank have potentially come back and said, we couldn't find anything fraudulent, that must have been you?
I've seen it both ways. Especially when PIN numbers are involved. I've seen it both ways, where the bank refuses to reimburse the victim because somehow they were careless with their PIN number. So that does happen. But usually the bank's going to reimburse on our cases. But I would say you make the report because detectives are trying to link. It's like a puzzle, right? So sometimes that one report's not going to do it for us. But we get about 2 or 3. Now we can see a pattern. Now we can make some connections and equal the prosecution. So you always make the report so we get as much information as we can.
And it's also important to understand what certain banks and how certain banks deal with the return of your funds. A few years ago, we had that situation with Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo and Bank of America are traditionally two of the worst banks for the return of their patrons' money upon theft. That's with a report and without a report.
Oh, don't get me started with Bank of America. And yes, I'm getting ready to blast them when they switch from Nations Bank to Bank of America or whatever it was before Bank of America. My mom had some money in a savings account, and when they switched, they told her she didn't have any money. Thousands of dollars. They never gave her money back.
Absolutely.
Thousands. Bank of America.
That was general practice for them.
And we understand, Mr. Holiday, you were muted, but we understand you guys can't comment like we can about those particular institutions. So
Why you say that?
Well, I'm just saying.
Why you saying that? Why you saying that? Huh?
I'm trying to get your way out.
No, sir. I speak my mind. However I see it.
I'm good, then.
I shoot straight. Good. Now, anyway, I just put it like that. I shoot straight. So
okay.
So Octavius, I want to get back to you and you, detective. I don't know why that was a hard pill to swallow when you all talked about the elderly, how people will scam, and Octavius. So what do people do in order, if you have an elderly parent, for example, and I know we're going to do another show on elderly.
I have another.
What should we tell our elderly relatives in order to reduce their likelihood of being victims of scams or fraud?
You would want to join their accounts. That's what we're in the process of now with my mom, right? She's just entering this season of her life, right? So I want to be on her accounts so I can look at it too. It takes away some of her privacy, but it also we're a safeguard for her having anything happen to her. So you have to start looking at you mentioned something too, Jocelyn. You mentioned about how you felt when you were taken advantage of at Publix. I have a lot of well, there are a lot of victims who just refuse to report it because they feel like there's going to be some kind of criticism on their age, or they can't protect themselves, that kind of thing. So I've seen it over and over again when cases are even proceeding, they still feel some kind of shame. And I'm like, no, I got it. All right, I have it. Let me do the heavy lifting, and we're going to make sure these people go to jail. But ultimately, I know that shame is there. So if you got a relative who's older, get involved. You know, I tell people all the time when I speak in the community, look, church groups, friends, check on people, right? Because that's what people who don't have that network or that support system, they're the ones who are most vulnerable. So anyway, I'll let Detective Cobb take it from there.
Well, I want to say also the Bureau of Consumer Affairs says that merely 15% of all scams and frauds are truly reported.
Right. I understand. But
Wow.
Anyway.
Wow, that's sad. If you're just joining us, we're talking about scams and frauds. Again, call in, post it if you're embarrassed. Speaking of shame, post a question or comment to us and let us know if you have, or if you know someone else who have been a victim of a scam or fraud. Our number is 888-669-1280. Detective Cobb, did you have a comment or thought on what we could do to help protect our loved ones from being a victim of a scam or fraud? You're muted.
So the only thing that I would add to that, and as much as we would hope that most parents would allow their children to be on their accounts, a lot of times they don't want to give up that freedom. To be honest with you, I will say some of the things that Octavius mentioned about getting them involved. One of the things that I've seen mostly in reference to these is they're just lonely. So they're on these online dating sites and things like that, and they're easily influenced by those individuals. So finding them to other ways to connect with people in their community and getting them out and about, things like that, I think would also help. In addition to that, the other things that I've seen lately with them targeting our elderly community is the fact is, you guys know that scam that's been around for a long time about we have a warrant out for your arrest, or JSO is coming to get you. That is actually still going on as we speak. And these individuals know a lot about those elderly individuals, including like their home addresses, things like that. They've done their research, and they may not know near as much as you think they know. What you don't realize is when you're communicating with these individuals, sometimes you're giving them more information than what you really should be giving them, which makes you believe that they know more about you than what they know. And unfortunately, I think a lot of our elderly community needs to realize that, hey, law enforcement is never going to call you after hours and say, we have a warrant for your arrest, or you need to pay this fine. You need to go get cash out of your bank or gift cards, things like that. Unfortunately, I've received 3 calls specifically for that reason just this week, because that's how much that has now increased lately with regards to our elderly community.
So you don't usually call people and tell them you have a warrant. You just bring their warrant and arrest them. You don't give people advance. Hey, I got a warrant. That right there to me should be the sign, right? I mean, I'm not trying to be funny, but
I think for the most part, in reference to that, a lot of times they're saying that, Jocelyn, you missed a court date, or you missed an appearance for something, and now there's a warrant out for your arrest, and they're calling you at 6-7 o'clock at night. Trust me that we are not doing that, and we're definitely not saying you need to be paying us your fine. Like, as a detective, I'm never going to call anybody saying you need to pay a fine to the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office because you missed a court appearance. That's just not something that happens. And I think that's information that needs to get out into the community to let them know, to prevent these calls from happening. And a lot of the people that I know that I've talked to just this week that have fallen for this scam, I mean, they're paying these fines, and they're letting these people come to their house, handing over cash that they went and got out of their bank. Nobody in law enforcement is going to do that. And unfortunately, the information is just not getting out to these people saying, hey, none of that is correct. Like, that is not something that law enforcement would ever ask you to do.
Now, let's take and expand upon that. The same thing for law enforcement applies to companies and organizations. Okay, so Bank of America is not going to call you at 6 o'clock and tell you that your account is overdrawn. JEA is not going to call you and tell you that your lights are going to be turned off after hours. Here's the basic rule of thumb is that most organizations, and they say most is 95% of organizations and companies, do not contact their customers without the customer contacting them first.
Yeah, but bottom line is we need to have a conversation not only with our elderly. What about, Detective? Are you seeing any scam of young adults as they young people as they transition from teenager to adult and maybe just getting used to handling their own affairs?
And before you answer that, I just want to throw this in. One of the things you can help do, as me seeing elderly patients, a lot of them, just go see your mom and dad. Stay in touch with them. Be close. Try to see what's going on in their lives, because part of the reason they fall for some of this stuff is that they're lonely and they don't want to bother their kids. So the kids should be more involved with them and find out what's going on. We're not trying to say take over mom or dad's life. We just want them to know that we care and we're involved. But go ahead, Detective Cobb, with what Jocelyn asked.
In reference to our younger community, the things that I see with them more often than not is the fact of them not necessarily falling for victims of scams, because they're definitely a lot more advanced when it comes to things nowadays. I see them more or less not being prepared in reference to what's expected of them as an adult, or being shown in reference to how to manage their money and even write checks nowadays. I mean, I know that people don't really do that as often, but there are times that even if you don't write checks, you still got to keep a balance of that checkbook. Like, the money's just not going to magically appear in your account. Once you start depleting some of that, it does start to go away. That's mostly what I see with our younger generation right now in reference to that. And they still haven't really grasped being victims of identity theft and things like that right now. Like, that's not really a concern for them right now. I would say the biggest thing I would tell anybody in reference to that is, including our young children, is most people don't realize you get 3 free credit reports a year for the government from each of your credit bureaus. And people are not checking them regularly to make sure the things that are on there, including our younger generation, are things that should be on there. And that's what I really encourage everybody. And there's nothing stopping you if you're not planning to use your credit anytime soon. Just freeze your credit. Like, there's no reason to leave it open for anybody to be able to use your credit to get things that really shouldn't be getting.
What about dating? You know, a lot of people rely on these dating sites to meet people. Are either of you seeing that people are scammed in those ways?
Yes.
Yes.
It's honestly where times have changed. That's where the bigger, and Octavius knows, that's where it's honestly moving to these days, because that's where people are actually communicating with online.
Right. A lot of times we can't prosecute though. The person is in the right mind. They're giving their money away, their funds away freely. And the kids are like, no. My dad gave this woman $20,000, but hey, you know what? I can't stop the person from giving the money away. We can't do that. We can't legislate that. But it is a grooming. It's not like they come and say, they meet Jim and they're like, Jim, can I have $20,000? No, they groom them. They're talking to several people at one time. And then they get closer and closer and closer to the person. And it gets really serious. Well, they sometimes move in. You're talking about moving property and assets. They're lonely, right? Or maybe they're not lonely. They're lonely, but they're looking for companionship, right? So a lot of times I've came across quite a few, normally males, but they have a few females as well, where they feel like, you know what, I'll give the money away because I enjoy my time with this person. It's just the rest of the family sees it as a scam, though.
Yeah, and I've seen it more with females than I have males, to be honest with you, in reference to the cases that we've worked. And we've let them know, just like Octavia said, the majority of these individuals are communicating with, they're not even in the United States. They're overseas. The money that they're sending is mostly going overseas.
Right. And Ms. Johnson, here's one of the things that I think we overestimate scams with regard to younger adults. The scams are of a different breed and more sophisticated. I have worked with, over the past year, a couple of younger individuals who were looking for employment, and they were told via social media that they would be able to get this job. But in order for us to get you in the line to be able to get this here, you got to send us $250.
I got you. Right.
Okay. So it's happening in that generation, but there are two things that is not happening. They're not reporting any of it.
Right.
Their shame and their embarrassment is preventing them from telling anyone. They're taking it as a loss, saying to themselves that I'll do better next time. And then the scam is just more sophisticated the next time. I'm going to buy these Nikes. These Nikes are regular $350, but because I've been DMing with this here person for the last month, he's going to give me a special. He's going to hit me at $150. That I can only get to 150 if I buy 5 of them. But I got 5 friends who would pay that amount of money. Bam, scam is enacted and they get nothing.
You're right.
You know, JT, what I want to do, because we got a limited amount of time left, is for both of our guests to give us some snippets or give us something that we can take away from this broadcast to be able to protect ourselves, whatever it may be that you guys can offer. Give us some advice on how we can protect ourselves from scams as best we can. I know we kind of, peppered our discussion with some things here and there, but if you guys had to kind of give a list, and I know you can't give a complete list, but you had to kind of give a list on what our listeners can do to help protect themselves. Can you help a brother out?
Sure. I've already said to slow down. That's one.
Okay.
All right. You slow down. Then you can also, like Cobb said, stay active with your credit in terms of your. I told you already earlier, I have credit cards that tell me exactly when they're used. But stay active with your credit report. There's a thing called there's an app. It's called Credit Karma. They're gonna hit you with advertisements, but they'll also tell you when your credit's used. So that's another thing as well. But also, I would just add this last little piece. Don't be arrogant and think it can't happen to you, because I've seen from professionals to whoever, it happens. It happens to people who are close to you as well, family members, grandkids, whatever. So don't be arrogant and think this can't happen to you as well. So, but I think we all just got to be smarter about it. Slow it down and be smarter about it. But
slow your roll.
Detective.
I think the thing that I would add, in addition to what Octavius and I have already covered, is in reference to not just social media, because so many people put so much stuff out on social media, including with their personal lives and stuff like that. But one of the things that I would highly encourage everybody to do, whether it's with your online banking, any type of online account, including your social media, is set up the 2-factor authentication, because that actually helps keep you from being hacked, or it should prevent that from happening if somebody's trying to access your account without you knowing about it. I would actually encourage people to use more complex passwords. Don't use it on multiple sites. And I know that's hard for a lot of us because we want to make it easier on ourselves. But that's one of the things, but as time keeps changing, I mean, technology helps us and hurts us all at the same time. Like, you have to make sure you prepare yourself for that as well. And that's one of the things that I would encourage people to do. If anybody is, I mean, just like the stuff you guys get in the mail and stuff like that, that's still a thing. Like, you guys really should be shredding that documentation. I know that goes back to old school, but you really should be shredding any of that stuff. And the last thing that I would probably tell people to do, since we already covered the credit reports and stuff like that, is to make sure that you actually have anti-malware stuff on your devices, and don't click on anything that you don't know. Like, if it's, people get all these emails, and a lot of times it's in your junk mail that they see pop up, and if it's not an email or something you're expecting from somebody, just delete it. Like, there's no reason to open it. They'll give a little tagline to try to capture your attention to get you to click on it. To me, it's just not worth it. If it's something you're expecting from somebody, then that's one thing, you know that email is coming in. But if it's not, don't just click on stuff just to see what it is. Just automatically delete it and send it to your trash.
It's such a shame that
people
prey on people who are vulnerable, right? Whatever your vulnerability is, folks, industries have encouraged us to rely on technology so much that you have to use it in so many instances, but then you put yourself then in a position to potentially be, placing all of your personal information, be it your medical portal, your financial portal, or whatever the case may be. It's the way of the world. I know I tell my elderly mother, because I taught her how to search for things online, But in that, I also told her about, if you see a nice pair of shoes or a dress and it says it's from JCPenney, don't click on it. Go to jcpenney.com
Right.
and describe that particular item rather than clicking on that particular item. Because even though Tyrone gave me a little bit of a sense of safetiness by saying that sometimes the malware that pops up on your cell phone might not be sophisticated enough to hack it, but still, I like to be play it safe than sorry. So,
Well, let
Detective,
me respond to that question as well, Ms. Jocelyn, because I
Go
was
ahead.
prepared for that question as well. And I brought forth, as I looked through online with regards to computer and internet technology, the things that they say that are done. Now, we've covered a lot of these here things. Major companies don't reach out to you at weird hours, and they always contact you with the proper domain name. So JEA is always going to be JEA.com. Bank of America is going to be bankofamerica.com. Whatever the organization, the information is going to come from their domain name. Never respond to unknown email addresses, regardless of how good it sounds. I think Detective mentioned this here. Enable spam on your phone and all of your devices, so
Spam
that
filter.
spam filter, so that you have a level of basic protection in place to prevent that. Here's one of the ones that wasn't mentioned, and it's highly recommended, is create a trust filter friend list. When you get this deal that's so good, you need to be able to call 2 to 3 friends and tell them about that, and you go through it and determine whether or not it makes sense, whether or not it's as good as it sounds. Friends are very meticulous in picking at the good deal for you better than you are for yourself. If you're 65 years or over, consider registering for protective services. No one has mentioned LifeLock, Identity Guard, and Aurora. To have that extra level of protection that garners the basic security of your Social Security, of them opening accounts in your name and things of that nature. Set passwords on all of your technology that do not automatically remember. If you have a financial institution, a bank, mortgage, or even investment, do not have it so that the password automatically remembers. Secure your computer with up-to-date internet security. You would be surprised at how many people install antivirus on their computer and knowing that it only is good for 1 year, and then a year passed and they will not renew. It doesn't matter that thing pops up every time they click the mouse. They will not renew. Limit your social media and a variety of online stores. Keep it to creditable stores, just like what you said, Ms. Jocelyn. You see something great, it says it's from JCPenney's, well, you go to jcpenney's.com and get it. Finally, never share your personal information over the internet unless it's with a verified company or organization.
Yeah, and I've had so many conversations with my elderly relatives, and really just sharing with them, if someone calls and as you all have mentioned, a grandson or granddaughter or someone is in jail, I tell them, I said, just jokingly say, good, they need to sit there. They need to take some rest anyway. So just let them sit there for a while. I thank you for telling me. I'll call them mama and tell them, or whatever the case may be. But I just tell them, and you should hear my mom when someone calls her. She'll yell out, what? Hello? I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Can you talk loud? And start, just acting real funny and whatever. But again, just really try to do a good job of educating our loved ones who are unfortunately victims of different crimes. This is a very interesting topic, one that we don't like having often, but one that we should have when it comes to our elderly parents and what have you. And one thing we learned tonight, that we need to do a segment on elder abuse. So Detective Cobb, that might not be within your purview, but it's something that we definitely need to talk about, elderly abuse. And it just still blows me away that family members take advantage of their elderly loved ones like that. That just, you always hope that it's a stranger that does wrong to people, but someone who professed to love you that would, I'm sure, hurt even more. At the end of every segment, we like to give our guests an opportunity to share their final thoughts. And Dr. Kane kind of jumped the gun by asking you, but is there anything, Detective Cobb or Octavius, that you'd like to share with our audience as we end the discussion about scams and fraud? Take it away, Detective.
A couple of things that I did forget to mention that Mr. Jackson actually reminded me of when he showed his little PowerPoint is the fact is be careful when it comes to some of the numbers and stuff that show up and even email addresses. Spoofing is a thing to where people actually can make it look like it's actually coming from that company. It goes back to, and I can't remember who said it during this conversation, that if you want to listen to somebody say they're calling from your bank and they're saying that fraud's occurred on your account, just make sure you call your bank. Not saying the person that's calling you is not really from your bank, but you're always safest is just to hang up, call the number you have for your bank to verify that information. The same that goes with emails and things like that. When it comes to skimming, especially when it comes to gas stations and ATMs and things like that, obviously technology is ever increasing with regards to those things. And as soon as banks try to find a way to prevent it with regards to the chips and things like that, always try to use your chip and your tap as opposed to just swiping it and things like that. If you do have to put in your information, try to cover up the keypad with your hand, at least until technology increases, and that's no longer going to be a way for us to actually fix those things. But I can't stress enough about people setting up the two-factor authentication in reference to any of the accounts they have, whether it's your banking, your utilities, your social media, things like that. That is one of the easiest things, I think, for all of us to be able to do to be able to prevent more fraud from occurring in reference to today's times, to be honest.
Thank you. And especially thank you, kudos, Detective, because you're in your car, right? So thank you so much for being flexible in order to join us tonight. I really appreciate that. Octavius, what are your final thoughts regarding tonight's topic?
I thought everything was covered really well, Jocelyn. I am always available to you all. I told you I don't say yes to everybody, but I count you as a dear friend. So if you all want to talk about anything that I have expertise in, I'll gladly come back.
Thank you. Thank you so much, as always, for answering my phone call or text. I really appreciate it, and thank you both. Dr. Kane, what are your final thoughts regarding tonight? No, hold that thought, Dr. Kane. I know we're gonna let Tyrone go first. Tyrone, what are your thoughts? And thank you for coming from behind the scenes. Tyrone, Detective, is our behind the scenes technology guy, but every now and then something that's near and dear to his heart or that he's passionate about, he likes to come up front. Tyrone, take it away.
Well, first of all, thanks for allowing me to come from behind the scene. I greatly appreciate it. I think Octavius said it best. A lot was covered here, and there's a lot of awesome information. There are a couple of things I want to bring back to the remembrance because I think it's worthy. Detective Cobb said two-factor authentication, and that's a great method, but it's important that you understand what that is. So two-factor authentication is simply where you set up a process that if any time your password is being used on an account, it has to be verified a second time through a series of means, either a text to your phone, a call to your phone, an email, another way. So in other words, if someone happens to get your password, or attempt to get access to your information, there's a second authentication that has to happen before they're allowed access. The beauty of that and the power of that is unreal. Take the time to understand and to learn that will save you a lot on the other end. And then the second one I wanted to compliment on was what came from Octavius. Slow down, read the information, and make a discerned decision whether or not it makes sense. When we say slow down, I mean if the email is coming from a place, confirm to the best of your ability that it's coming from that place. If you receive a phone call and they profess to be from somewhere, Detective Cobb say, okay, great, hang up, call them back on the number that you know is a good number, and then you can get the same thing done with a greater sense of security. So if those two items right there were enacted, you would be able to protect yourself greatly when it comes to fraud and scams.
Thank you, Tyrone. Great feedback. And the best one that I like from that is to dial back on the number that you know, not the number that they give you to call them back. Dr. Kane, what are your final thoughts?
I'm gonna make it quick. The one thing we did not mention, I think employers need to train their employees to make sure that they use any of their equipment and the computers and access to the internet, and use them from a fiduciary point of view. Be careful what they put on there. Have them trained to how to use the internet while at work. Okay, should be just for work, but of course we have people that they don't do that. So it gives access. There was a major company here in Northeast Florida just recently that got shut down for weeks. It appears that they got hacked and got scammed, and it prevented me from doing a whole lot of work on my patients because I could not schedule them for things. So make sure the employers train, for those that are listening, those employers, big, small, or whatever, are listening, train their employees for it. Also, the children should, as far as like at my house, my daughter, she really covers my wife's email because she is very technologically inadequate because she just chose not to go that direction. Being of elderly elderly age, I because of what I do, I tend to deal into technology a little bit more. But there are a lot of elderly patients don't really want to get into technology, so their children should help them overcome that burden, and then keep a safeguard, a good eye on them. I do think that the only thing that we didn't talk about that I will be interested in terms of further discussion, but it's time limited us with it, is the insertion of AI. Okay, artificial intelligence and what it's able to do these days and accomplish, and try to circumvent the things that we're just talked about this evening, and we didn't get a chance to talk about it. But what role does AI play with it? And then, of course, I love for people to start looking at elderly abuse, especially as it relates to your parents and or significant others and or your other relatives. I would like to thank both of our guests for coming on. I know you will do that, Ms. Turner, but thank both of our guests for coming on and sharing with us their knowledge and expertise of how we can help save our family members from ourselves and family members from a lot of misery and headaches. So thank you guys very much for coming on and giving us that update, and that I got a little greater sense of security. I mean, I know that's not enough, but I got some greater sense of security just by listening to you guys.
Thank you, Dr. Kane. And for those of you who have been a victim of a scam or fraud, I think one thing that Octavia said a lot, don't be ashamed. Let someone know. And especially if you were scammed so much that you lost a lot of money, you want to educate others to make sure that they don't fall victim to it. So tell your story. Don't be embarrassed. You will be surprised how much more people will respect you for sharing your story rather than holding it. Thank you, as always, for tuning in to Pause for the Truth. And tune in next week as we share more information that you or your family can use. Thanks again to our guests.
Welcome to Pause for the Truth. We are grateful that you joined us today and hope you've gained valuable insights on our current topic. We look forward to having you with us next time as we explore trending issues in our community and discover ways to simplify life for you and your loved ones. Our dedicated panelists and staff are committed to sharing knowledge and serving our community. But now, we need your support. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and spread this valuable knowledge to others. Don't forget to invite your family and friends to tune in to our podcast every Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. EST. visit our website at www.pauseforthetruth.com and show your support by liking us on Facebook, following us on Twitter, and linking with us on LinkedIn. Feel free to email us with any questions, or concerns, or show topic recommendations at info@pauseforthetruth.com. I would also like to give thanks to our behind-the-scenes technology engineer, Tyrone Jackson, owner and operator of Call Tyrone. Go to www.calltyrone.net for a complete list of services. Thank you for being a part of Pause for the Truth. Together, we can make a positive impact on